I believe this will be Jalen Milroe's last game at Alabama as long as Alabama doesn't make the college football playoffs. I think he'll either move to the NFL or to another school. I don't think he ever plays another game for Alabama. And if you're going to go to the NFL and you're going to go to, or if you're going to go to another school, you opt out of the bowl game. You don't play the bowl game if you're not in the college football playoff. So barring Alabama being in the college football playoff, I believe this is Jalen Milroe's last game as the Alabama quarterback.
I don't know that I would say an absolute, but I can't also sit here and argue against you because I look at this. So first of all, Phil Yates today, and you're going to start seeing more and more of these have, he's got his draft stuff out. And I think if I saw this right, he had Milroe among the top 5 quarterbacks. If Phil is right about that, that is at worst a second-round draft spot.
And you go at that point if you're Jalen Milroe,
I think
right?
You have to, yeah. I mean, I don't know. Can you play your way back up into the first round next year or only hurt yourself more? I don't know. But second-round quarterback money is still good money. And if you go perform, you turn it into exceptional money, right? So I would say if you think you're a top 5 quarterback, you're out. That could be first round. I mean, I'm not saying it's definitely second round.
Dak Prescott, who got the big contract in the offseason, was a third round
Third
pick.
or fourth. I never can remember. It was either third or fourth.
It was after the first or second round.
Yeah, but he performed, and he turned whatever that round was into life-changing money. And you could do that, obviously. So I would think if Alabama doesn't backdoor their way into the playoffs, which I don't think is going to happen, but if they don't, Alabama's going to probably end up somewhere like the Vegas Bowl or the what used to be the Outback or the Citrus, whatever those things are, right? They're going to end up at one of those places. And frankly, I think if you did a poll of actual Alabama fans and gave them the option, one more ride with Milroe, or say, thank you, Jalen, for what you've done, we'd like to see Ty Simpson now. Right. I think the majority of fans would vote, thank you, Jalen, for what you've done. We'd like to see Ty Simpson now. And I don't think it's like anything horrible against Milroe. I just think they know that'll be the future. Let's go ahead and see it now in a game that really has no meaning.
And in any no playoff scenario, the bowl game is about the future, in my opinion. It always has been, always will be. If it's not the playoffs, the bowl game is about the future. I'd rather see future quarterback competition than a guy who may not be with us if he's going to the NFL. I also bring it up because I'm not sure Jalen Milroe is the kind of quarterback, style-wise, that Kalen DeBoer is comfortable and or likes running his style of offense.
It seems like it has been a struggle, doesn't it? Like it seems like that it has been difficult in working that skill set into what I would normally like to do. So I don't disagree with you on that. I don't know that it is Kalen DeBoer. Like if he could just pick a quarterback off the shelf, if the style, I'm not saying specifically Jalen Milroe, but the style of Jalen Milroe is the one he'd pick off the shelf if he were grocery shopping. So yeah, I mean I don't know that that's crazy to say that or think that. And I I've always said this, and people tell me, my dad tells me, and people tell me that bowls used to mean a ton, and maybe they did. I mean the bowls used to actually determine the national champion. It was a stupid system we had, but it was the system we had. And those bowl games meant a lot because you could be playing some lesser team, but this team across the country is the one team in front of you, and if they're behind in the fourth quarter, you got a shot at winning the national championship. It was a dumb system, but it was the system we had. I've always thought of bowls as just exhibitions anyway. Like, that's why I've never gotten wound up about a guy opting out of a bowl game. And everybody's like, well, those seniors, they're playing their last game. Well, yeah, but those seniors got to play 12 or 13 games this year as well, right? And they did it in large part, and they made this bowl game because this guy played all those games.
One of my favorite non-important bowl game in Alabama football history was the 1976 Liberty Bowl because Alabama was playing in the Liberty Bowl against a really good UCLA team that had just missed the Rose Bowl. And Alabama beat the crap out of them. And they beat the crap out of them with a bunch of young guys that were going to be back in 77 where they should have won the national championship, and in 78 and 79 when they did win the national championship. Those guys that played a lot in that Liberty Bowl game were big factors in should have been and 2 national championships for Bear Bryant in 77, 78, 79. That's what this year's Alabama bowl game should look like and could look like to me. for Alabama if they end up in the Citrus, Vegas, or Gator Bowls. I will say a footnote. I'm a Jalen Milroe fan.
Okay.
I do not think they should have switched quarterbacks at any point this season. He should have been the quarterback and should be the quarterback tomorrow. That's Alabama's best chance of winning right now. But when you move to the future, I don't think with this coaching staff, what they want to do, and the way Jalen Milroe plays football has ever been the perfect match. They inherited a guy who was a leader on this team, who was a captain on this team, who helped keep the team together and had led Alabama to the playoffs last year, and you weren't going to throw that out just because you didn't fit your style. You wanted to try to mesh it together. But I think as you move forward, in my belief, the best case scenario is Jalen Milroe getting good NFL grades and going off to the NFL. If not, it would not surprise me if he's at a different institution next year for a lot of money, NIL money, to go somewhere else.
Yeah, I think with some of what he's shown, he could be very attractive in the transfer portal. I don't think that's what will happen. I think he'll be on to the NFL.
Yeah, and that probably was the plan all season long.
Well, especially coming out of the Georgia game, I'm sure it was.
It's been a long time since we've said this. My other absolute is, at least to date, but maybe in his whole time at Alabama, this is the most important game Kalen DeBoer is going to coach at Alabama. And I say that because in a season where you've had a loss to Vanderbilt, you've had what ended up being the most lopsided regular season loss in 2 decades, and a rivalry loss to Tennessee, to bookend that with a rivalry loss to Auburn in your first year, that is a big momentum swing that you got to fight this off season and next season to get everyone back on your side. So to end this by not losing to Auburn becomes very important for Kalen DeBoer.
Okay, so you say just the initial statement again. Most important game he's ever coached at Alabama, essentially, is what you're saying.
Well, obviously it's the next one. It could end up being the most important game he ever coaches at Alabama.
And to date, you would say the most important one was Georgia?
Oh, that one helps because he won that game. But, he lost to Tennessee and Vandy game. I'm just saying.
Yeah, but just think of everything that went into that. That was the first really big test of, okay, can this guy really replace Nick Saban? And that day it looked like, okay, I guess he can.
My point being that if this one gets away and Auburn pulls the upset tomorrow, then you have both your big rivals that were losses, and then you had the losses to Vandy and a lopsided loss to Oklahoma. Your 4 losses, and then what does the offseason look like with the portal, the recruiting, and then going into next year? We've seen more coaches than not at Alabama come in and have to battle a very aggressive, win-happy fan base. And if you're not winning them over early on, it's hard to get them back. That's why I think tomorrow may end up, if Kalen DeBoer is here 10 years from now, and he's won 5 national championships, you may look back to this game tomorrow as being the most important game in Kalen DeBoer's time at Alabama.
Wow.
10 years from now, you could look back and he could tell a story saying, these 5 national championships would not have happened if we hadn't have beat Auburn that Saturday at Bryant-Denny Stadium in what looks like a game that really means nothing but bragging rights. But for our program, it ended up meaning a lot.
Yeah, it is rather rare that a first-year coach wins this game, not just at Alabama, but at Auburn. I mean, the more common thing is the first-year coach loses this game at both schools. I mean, if you just look historically at both schools, just offhand, I think it is only since Bryant, I think it is only Stallings and Malzahn and Terry Bowden that have won their first ones. Yeah. I think that's right. I'd have to go back and look. But I'm just doing that on the fly off the top of my head.
When you get a second, go check out the ones that win it the second year.
And see what happens?
At Auburn.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pat Dye
did it. Terry Bowden did not.
Gene Chizik
did it. That was 2010 on the way to the national championship. He did it. Malzahn did not.
Yep.
Harsin did not. Harsin didn't even get to coach the second one.
Freeze is getting a chance to do it.
Yeah. Freeze will have a shot at doing it. So, historically, you don't win your first one. I mean, Saban did not do it. Gene Stallings did. Gene Stallings managed to do it, and I think that is it. I think it's only Stallings, Bowden, and Malzahn.
Franchione did, didn't he?
Yep, you're right. You're right. Boy, I forget that era sometimes. I don't know why I forget Franchione. I mean, he's only there 2 years.
Because he won the one he wasn't supposed to win. He lost the one he was supposed to win.
There you go. Franchione, Stallings, Bowden, and Malzahn until we think of another one. But I think I'm right about that because I know Perkins lost his first one. Curry lost his first one. So there you go. Bose lost his first one.
Pritchelaw says usually a first-year coach is replacing somebody that got fired, not the GOAT that left the cupboard full.
Most of the time that is correct.
DeBoer better win this one.